Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the research ship Horizon's Edge, watching the stars drift past the view screen. The ship had been traveling through empty space for 3 weeks now, searching for new worlds that might support human colonies. It was quiet work, but Jake liked it that way. After 20 years in the Colonial Defense Force, he preferred peace to the chaos of war. The bridge was small and cramped compared to military vessels. Only 5 crew members worked the night shift, their faces lit by the soft glow of computer screens. Jake was about to order a course change when Lieutenant Ryan Torres, at the communications station, suddenly straightened up. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Ryan said, his fingers dancing across his console. "It's a signal, but it's heavily encrypted. The frequency is unlike anything in our databases." Jake stood and walked over to Ryan's station. "Where's it coming from? The Kepler 442 system, sir? About 40 light years from here?" Ryan frowned at his screens. "The signal is repeating every 30 seconds, but the encryption is so complex that our computers can't break it. Could it be from another human ship?" "No, sir. The transmission patterns are completely alien. This is definitely not human technology." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. First contact with an alien species was always dangerous. He'd learned that lesson the hard way during the wars with the Centauri Empire. "Get Dr. Campbell up." "Here immediately," he ordered. 10 minutes later, Dr. Lisa Campbell arrived on the bridge. She was the ship's expert on alien languages and cultures, a small woman with sharp eyes and graying hair. She had spent her entire career studying the few alien civilizations that humanity had encountered. "What do we have, Captain?" she asked, settling into the chair next to Ryan's station. "An encrypted alien signal from Kepler 442. We need to know what they're saying." Lisa nodded and began working alongside Ryan. For the next 4 hours, they tried every decryption method they knew. Jake paced the bridge, growing more worried with each passing minute. Alien civilizations didn't usually send encrypted messages unless something was very wrong. Finally, Lisa looked up from her console with exhaustion written on her face. "The language is similar to the Zephyrian dialect we encountered 10 years ago, but much more advanced. They're using quantum encryption methods that are incredibly sophisticated." "What are they saying?" Lisa's face went pale as she read the translation appearing on her screen. "Captain, you need to hear this." She activated the speakers, and a strange musical voice filled the bridge. The words were translated into English by the computer, but the tone of desperation came through clearly. "This is Elder Harmony of the Zephyrian Council, broadcasting on all frequencies to any species that might hear our plea. Our people are dying. Our worlds are being destroyed. The Krex Dominion has come to harvest our civilization, and we cannot stop them." The voice paused, and Jake could hear what sounded like crying in the background. "We are a peaceful people. We have never built weapons of war. We have never learned to kill. The Krex show no mercy. They've already stripped 3 of our worlds bare, taking every living thing for their own purposes. The few survivors hide in our moon colonies, but they are finding us one by one." Jake felt his hands clench into fists. He had heard of the Krex Dominion, though only in classified military reports. They were one of the most feared species in the galaxy, known for consuming entire civilizations. The Zephyrian's voice continued, growing more desperate. "We know of your species, humans from the world called Earth. We know you are what the galaxy calls Deathworlders. We know your ships are instruments of war that frighten even the strongest empires. We have heard the stories of your battles, of how you fight with a fury that comes from your terrible homeworld." Ryan looked confused. "Deathworlders, sir." Jake nodded grimly. "That's what the aliens call us. Earth is considered one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. Most alien species come from worlds where everything is safe and peaceful. They can't understand how we survived on a planet with earthquakes, storms, predators, diseases, and 1,000 other things trying to kill us every day." The message continued. "We make this plea to you, humans of Earth. We know you have ships, hidden in the darkness, vessels of war that you keep secret from the rest of the galaxy. We beg you, bring your most deadly ships to our system. Save what remains of our people. We offer everything we have in return for our survival." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Lisa spoke first. Captain, this is unprecedented. No alien species has ever directly asked us to bring our warships into their territory. Usually they're terrified of our military. Cheek was already moving toward his command chair. Ryan, send this transmission to Colonial Defense Force headquarters immediately. Use the emergency quantum relay. Yes, sir. Should I include our current position? Tell them we're already en route to Kepler 442. We're going to need backup, and we're going to need it fast. As Ryan worked to send the message, Jake stared at the view screen showing the stars ahead. Somewhere out there, an entire civilization was being murdered, and they had turned to humanity for help. The problem was, helping them would mean revealing just how dangerous human ships really were. Most alien species knew humans were tough fighters, but they didn't know the full truth. Hidden in secret shipyards throughout human space were vessels, designed not just to win wars, but to end them completely. Ships equipped with weapons that could crack planets and turn entire fleets into space dust. Jake had served on some of those ships during the classified operations that officially never happened. He knew what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge. The question was whether the galaxy was ready to see the children of Earth, to unleash their full fury. The communication board chimed as a reply came from headquarters. Admiral Betty Stone's face appeared on the screen, her expression grim. Captain Morrison, we've received the Zephyrian transmission. I'm authorizing you to proceed to Kepler 442 immediately, but do not engage the enemy. You're going there too. Gather intelligence only. Understood, Admiral. What about reinforcements? Admiral Stone's eyes were cold as steel. Captain, I'm about to issue a code Crimson Alert. The deadliest ships in human space are about to wake up from their long sleep. If the Zephyrians want our most dangerous vessels, then that's exactly what they're going to get. The transmission ended, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts. Code Crimson meant that humanity was about to show the galaxy exactly why Earth was called a death world, and why its children were the most feared warriors in known space. Admiral Betty Stone stood in the control room of the Titan shipyards, watching through thick glass walls as massive shapes moved in the darkness beyond Neptune. These shipyards had been built in secret 50 years ago, hidden from the prying eyes of alien observers who monitored human space. What they contained was humanity's greatest secret and its most terrible weapon. Fleet Commander Alex Carter walked up beside her, his face serious. He was a tall man with gray hair and scars on his hands from the battles he never talked about. Admiral, the crews are responding to the code Crimson Alert. All ships will be ready for departure in 6 hours. Betty nodded but kept staring out the window. Alex, in 30 years of service, I never thought I would give this order. We're about to show the galaxy what we really are. The Zephyrians asked for our deadliest ships, ma'am. It's exactly what they're going to get. In the darkness outside, lights began to flicker on as ancient vessels came to life. The first ship to emerge from its hidden dock was enormous, nearly 2 kilometers long and bristling with weapons that officially didn't exist. Its black hull bore scars from conflicts that were erased from all records. The Death's Resolve, Alex said quietly. Captain Nina Brooks has been waiting 20 years for permission to take her out of mothballs. Betty watched as the massive dreadnought slowly moved away from the dock. Nina fought in the Outer Rim Wars. She knows what these weapons can do. Captain Nina Brooks stood on the bridge of the Death's Resolve, feeling the familiar vibration of the ship's massive engines coming online. Her crew of 200 veterans moved with practiced efficiency, checking systems that hadn't been used in decades. Every person on this ship had been chosen for their ability to keep secrets and their willingness to do whatever was necessary. Chief Engineer Sam Rodriguez appeared at her side, holding a tablet with system reports. He was a stocky man with oil-stained hands and worried eyes. Captain, all primary systems are green, but I have to tell you, some of these weapons make me nervous. Which ones, Sam? The quantum disruptors, ma'am? Last time we fired them, they tore a hole in space itself. The gravitational cannons could collapse a small moon if we're not careful. Nina looked at the weapons display on her command screen. Each weapon system was marked with warning labels in red text. Sam, we're going to fight an enemy that destroys entire civilizations for fun. I don't think we need to worry about holding back. Meanwhile, a smaller ship was leaving another dock. The Silent Reaper looked like a normal destroyer from the outside, but its hull was made from materials that bent light around it. Captain Rick Palmer commanded this vessel, and his specialty was making enemy ships disappear without anyone knowing. How? Rick walked through his ship's corridors, checking on his crew of 50 specialists. These men and women were experts in stealth warfare and silent killing. They could destroy an entire enemy fleet without being detected. Lieutenant Tom Anderson met him in the weapons bay, where strange devices hummed with barely contained energy. "Captain, the new stealth torpedoes are ready. They can pass through enemy shields without being noticed." "How many do we have?" "Enough to sink their entire fleet, sir. Each torpedo can take out a ship 10 times our size." Rick smiled grimly. "Good. The Kreks won't know what hit them." The third ship to leave the shipyards was different from the others. The Stormbringer was a massive carrier that held squadrons of fighters designed specifically for terror warfare. Captain Helen Murphy had trained her pilots to fight like the predators that had once hunted humans on Earth. She stood in the fighter bay, watching her pilots check their small but deadly craft. Each fighter was equipped with weapons that could destroy much larger ships. More importantly, they were designed to create fear in enemy crews. Commander Pete Jackson, her lead pilot, approached with his helmet under his arm. He was young, but had already fought in 3 secret wars. "Captain, the squadrons are ready. We've loaded the psychological warfare packages." "Remind me what those do, Pete." "When we attack enemy ships, the packages broadcast the sounds of Earth's most dangerous predators directly into their communication systems. Most alien species panic when they hear a tiger roar or a wolf howl. It gives us a huge advantage." Helen nodded. "The Kreks think they're the galaxy's top predators. Time to show them what real predators look like." The final ship to emerge from the shipyards was the most mysterious. The Voidwalker was completely black and seemed to swallow light around it. Very few people knew what it was capable of, and even fewer knew who commanded it. Captain Dan Miller rarely spoke to anyone outside his crew. His ship specialized in operations that left no evidence and no survivors. The 75 people under his command were chosen from the most elite units in human space. His tactical officer, Kate Sullivan, was studying intelligence reports about the Kreks. She was a quiet woman who could analyze enemy weaknesses faster than any computer. "Captain, I've found something interesting about Krek psychology." "What is it?" "They've never faced an enemy that fights back effectively. Every species they've encountered has been peaceful or weak. They're not prepared for real resistance." Dan looked at the tactical display showing Krek's fleet movements, and we're going to give them the shock of their lives. As the 4 ships formed up outside the shipyards, Admiral Stone's voice came over the communication system. "Commanders, you are about to undertake the most classified mission in human history. The Zephyrians have asked for our deadliest ships, and you are our answer to that request." Fleet Commander Carter took control of the formation from his position aboard the Death's Resolve. "All ships prepare for hyperspace jump. We're heading to Kepler 442, where we're going to remind the galaxy why they call us Deathworlders." For ships engage their hyperspace drives simultaneously, disappearing into the darkness between stars. Behind them, the Titan shipyards went back to sleep, waiting for the next time humanity would need its most terrible weapons. In the deep space between Earth and Kepler 442, the deadliest fleet humanity had ever assembled, raced toward a battle. That would change how the galaxy viewed the children of Earth forever. The human fleet traveled through hyperspace on routes that existed only in the most classified navigation computers. Fleet Commander Alex Carter stood on the bridge of the Death's Resolve, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace flow past. The view screen. They'd been traveling for 2 days. The weight of their mission pressed down on everyone aboard. Captain Nina Brooks joined him at the observation window. She'd been studying reports about the Krek's dominion, and her expression was grim. "Alex, I've been reading about what these creatures do to the species they capture. It's worse than anything we faced in the Outer Rim Wars. Tell me."
"You don't."
"Just kill their victims quickly. They keep them alive as long as possible while they harvest everything useful from their bodies. The Kreks see other species as nothing more than resources to be used up. Alex felt his jaw tighten. He had seen many terrible things during his military career, but the idea of an entire species dedicated to torture and consumption made his blood run cold. How many civilizations have they destroyed? 17 that we know of? Billions of lives, Alex. Entire worlds stripped bare until nothing is left but dead rock. On the other side of the fleet, Commander Paul Wright was briefing the crew of the Silent Reaper about their enemy. He was the fleet's intelligence officer, a thin man with sharp eyes who had spent years studying alien military tactics. Are not like any enemy we've fought before, he told the assembled crew. They're twice as tall as humans, with natural armor plating and claws that can tear through steel. But their real strength is their technology. Lieutenant Tom Anderson raised his hand. What kind of technology, sir? Their ships are biological, grown rather than built. They can repair themselves during battle and adapt to new threats. Krex. Ship that survives one of our attacks will be harder to kill the next time. Captain Rick Palmer listened from the back of the room. How many ships are we talking about? Long-range sensors suggest over 300 vessels of various sizes, surrounding the Zephyrian homeworld. We're outnumbered 75-1. The room fell silent. Even for elite human warriors, those odds seemed impossible. Paul continued his briefing. But the Krex have one major weakness. They've never faced a species that fights back effectively. Every civilization they've encountered has been peaceful or too weak to resist. They're not prepared for real combat against experienced warriors. Aboard the Stormbringer, Captain Helen Murphy was talking with her pilots in the fighter bay. The men and women under her command were the best humanity had to offer. Veterans of secret wars fought in the darkness between stars. Commander Pete Jackson was examining his fighters. Weapon systems. Captain, I've been thinking about our attack strategy. If the Krex have never faced real resistance, they won't know how to respond to terror tactics. What do you have in mind, Pete? We hit them fast and hard, targeting their life support? Systems instead of trying to destroy their ships completely. Let some of them survive long enough to spread panic through their fleet. Lieutenant Amy Foster nodded from her position near another fighter. The psychological warfare packages should be especially effective. Most of these aliens have probably never heard the sounds of Earth's predators. Helen smiled grimly. Remember? We're not just trying to win this battle. We're sending a message to the entire galaxy about what happens when you threaten innocent people. On the mysterious Voidwalker, Captain Dan Miller was meeting with his senior staff in a room that officially didn't exist. His ship carried weapons and equipment that violated several galactic treaties, tools designed for operations that could never be acknowledged. Kate Sullivan was analyzing Krex communication patterns on her computer. Captain, I've discovered something interesting about how they coordinate their fleets. They use a central command ship that controls all the others. If we take out the command ship, what happens to the rest? Their coordination falls apart. Individual ships would still be dangerous, but they wouldn't be able to work together effectively. Dan looked at the tactical display showing the Krex fleet formation. Can we identify which ship is the command vessel? I'm working on it. The Krex use quantum communication links. But there are patterns in the signal traffic that should tell us which ship is giving orders. Meanwhile, Dr. Maria Santos aboard the Death's Resolve was studying data about the Zephyrian biology. She was the fleet's expert on alien life forms, and what she had learned about the victims made her angry. She found Fleet Commander Carter in his ready room, staring at star charts. Alex, you need to see this. Zephyrians are even more helpless than we thought. How so? They're crystalline beings who reproduce by sharing harmonic frequencies. They literally sing new life into existence. The Krex are using sonic weapons specifically designed to shatter their life essence. Alex looked up from his charts. They're not just killing them, they're destroying their ability to create new life. Exactly, and it gets worse. The Zephyrians can feel the pain of their dead across light years. Every time the Krex kill one of them, the survivors experience the agony. It's the most cruel form of genocide I've ever encountered. Its communication system activated. And Captain Jake Morrison's voice came through from the horizon's edge, which was still traveling toward the battle zone. Fleet Commander, we're receiving new intelligence from the Kepler 442 system. Go ahead, Jake. Long-range scans showed that the Krex have accelerated their harvesting operations. 3 of the 5 inhabited worlds in the system have been completely stripped of life. The remaining Zephyrians are trapped on moon colonies, and the Kreks are hunting them down systematically. Alex felt his hands form fists. How many survivors? Less than 2 million out of an original population that numbered in the billions. At their current rate, the Kreks will finish their harvest in less than a week. The fleet commanders exchanged glances. They had been planning to study the situation carefully before attacking. But time was running out for the Zephyrians, Captain. Brooke spoke first. Alex, we need to accelerate our timeline. Every hour we delay means thousands more innocent deaths. Agree. All ships. Prepare to drop out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. We're going in dark and fast. As the fleet prepared for battle, each crew member understood the weight of what they were about to do. They were not just fighting to save the Zephyrians. They were about to show the galaxy exactly what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge. The children of Earth were coming, and they were bringing their most terrible weapons to answer a desperate plea for help. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, their ships immediately going dark to avoid detection. Fleet Commander Alex Carter stood on the bridge of the Death's Resolve, watching the tactical display as it populated with enemy contacts. What he saw made his blood run cold. Over 300 Krek ships surrounded the inner system like a swarm of hungry insects. Their biological vessels pulsed with sickly green light as they moved between the planets, harvesting what remained of the Zephyrian civilization. In the distance, 3 worlds that had once supported billions of lives now appeared as gray, lifeless rocks. My God, whispered Captain Nina Brooks. They've killed entire worlds. The tactical display showed red markers where Zephyrian colonies had once existed. Only a few scattered blue dots remained, indicating the moon bases were the last. Survivors were hiding, even as they watched. Some of the blue dots flickered and disappeared as Krek's harvesting ships found their targets. Captain Dan Miller's voice came over the communication system from the Voidwalker. Fleet Commander, requesting permission to begin Phase 1. Permission granted, Dan. Take out their sensor grid. The Voidwalker disappeared from all sensors as its advanced cloaking systems activated. Captain Miller and his crew were experts at invisible warfare, and their ship was equipped with technology that made it almost impossible to detect. They moved through the outer system like a ghost, targeting the sensor platforms that the Kreks had placed to watch for threats. One by one, the enemy sensor stations went silent. The Kreks crews manning them never knew what hit them. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan worked her console with deadly efficiency, identifying targets and coordinating strikes. Within 2 hours, the Kreks were effectively blind to anything happening beyond their main fleet. Phase 1 complete, Captain Miller reported. They can't see us coming. Alex nodded grimly. Phase 2, launch fighters. Captain Helen Murphy's voice echoed through the Stormbringer as she addressed her pilots. Remember your training. We're not just fighting for victory today, we're fighting to save innocent lives and send a message to the galaxy. The massive carrier's launch bays opened, and dozens of human fighters poured out into space. These weren't ordinary military craft. Each fighter was designed with one purpose in mind: to create maximum terror in enemy forces. Commander Pete Jackson led the first squadron, his fighters' engines burning bright blue as they accelerated toward the Krek's fleet. All pilots activate psychological warfare packages on my mark. The human fighters approached the outer edge of the Krek's formation at incredible speed. As they opened fire, their communication systems began broadcasting the sounds that had once meant death to early humans on Earth. The roar of tigers, howl of wolves, and the scream of hunting eagles filled the Krek's communication channels. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Kreks had evolved on a world where they were the top predators. They had never heard the sounds of creatures more dangerous than themselves. Panic spread through their ranks as their primitive instincts told them they were being hunted by something worse than they were. Lieutenant Amy Foster's fighter dove between 2 Krek's vessels, her weapons targeting their life support systems rather than trying to destroy them completely. Direct hit on their atmospheric processors. That ship is losing air. The surviving Krek's crew members began screaming in terror as they realized they were slowly suffocating. Their distress calls spread panic to other ships in the formation. Meanwhile, Captain Rick Palmer's Silent Reaper moved through the Krek's fleet like a deadly shadow. His stealth destroyer was equipped with torpedoes that could pass through enemy shields without being detected. Target acquired, reported Lieutenant Tom Anderson from the weapons station. Krek's heavy cruiser, bearing 27 Mark IV. Fire. The stealth torpedo struck the Krek's vessel without warning, tearing through its biological hull and causing massive internal damage. The ship's death screams echoed through space as its living structure died in agony. Another target down, Rick said calmly, selecting next victim. The Silent Reaper continued its deadly work, destroying ship after ship without the Kreks ever knowing where the attacks were coming from. Fear began to replace confidence in the enemy ranks, but the real terror began when the Death's resolve emerged. From the darkness, like a harbinger of doom. The massive dreadnought's black hull reflected no light as it powered up weapons that officially didn't exist. All weapons charged and ready, reported Chief Engineer Sam Rodriguez. Quantum disruptors and gravitational cannons are online. Captain Brooks looked at the target display showing dozens of Krek ships. Fire at will, Sam. Show them what happens when they mess with innocent people. The quantum disruptors fired first. Beams of pure energy that tore through Krek shields as if they were made of paper. The weapons didn't just destroy their targets, they unraveled them at the atomic level, turning entire ships into clouds of scattered particles. The gravitational cannons followed, creating artificial black holes that crushed Krek's vessels into impossibly dense points of matter. Had taken decades to grow, were compressed into objects no larger than marbles in seconds. The Krek's fleet began to panic. They had expected easy prey, defenseless creatures they could harvest at their leisure. Instead, they found themselves facing weapons beyond their understanding, wielded by warriors who fought with a fury they had never encountered. Communications intercepts revealed the growing terror in Krek's ranks. Dr. Lisa Campbell, Tona monitoring. From the horizon's edge, translated their desperate messages. They're calling us the death that comes from the void. They've never seen anything like our weapons. The Krek's commander tried to use the surviving Zephyrians as shields, threatening to execute prisoners unless the humans withdrew. His message was broadcast on all frequencies. Stop your attack or we will kill every remaining Crystal Singer in the system. The response came from Captain Miller aboard the Voidwalker. His ship suddenly appeared next to the Krek's prison ships. Having used teleportation technology to bypass their defenses entirely, this is Captain Miller to all Krek's forces. We don't negotiate with genocidal monsters. Boarding parties led by Captain Miller himself teleported directly onto the prison ships. These elite soldiers moved through the Krek's vessels like death itself, eliminating every enemy they encountered while carefully rescuing the terrified Zephyrian prisoners. Within minutes, the rescue operation was complete. The surviving Zephyrians were safely aboard human ships, while their former captors floated in space as frozen corpses. The remaining Krek's fleet realized they were facing something they had never encountered before, a species more dangerous than themselves. They tried to retreat, but Fleet Commander Carter's orders were clear and merciless. No survivors, no witnesses. Let the galaxy know what happens to those who commit genocide. The hunt began as human ships pursued the fleeing Krek's vessels across. The system, Children of Earth, had come to answer a desperate plea, and they would not leave until justice was complete. The hunt for the remaining Krek ships lasted 6 hours, as Captain Rick Palmer's Silent Reaper tracked fleeing vessels through asteroid fields, its stealth torpedoes finding targets that thought they were safely hidden. Commander Pete Jackson led his fighter squadrons in pursuit of escape pods, making sure no Krek survivors could reach hyperspace to warn others of what had happened. The last Krek ship was cornered near the system's outer edge by the Death's resolve. Captain Nina Brooks watched on her view screen as the enemy vessel tried desperately to escape. Its biological hull was damaged and leaking, and its crew was broadcasting surrender messages on all frequencies. "Captain, they're begging for mercy," reported the communications officer. Nina's expression remained cold. Did they show mercy to the Zephyrians? Let they listen, when innocent people begged for their lives? Chief Engineer Sam Rodriguez fired the final shot. The quantum disruptor beam struck the fleeing ship, and it simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was nothing but empty space and scattered atoms. Target destroyed, Sam reported quietly. Psst, that was the last one. Fleet Commander Alex Carter's voice came over the communication system. All ships. Report status. Silent Reaper reporting. All enemy contacts eliminated. 0 survivors detected. Stormbringer reporting. Fighter squadrons accounted for. No Krex escape pods remain. Voidwalker reporting. Prison ships secured. All Zephyrian survivors have been rescued. Alex nodded. Grimly. Begin rescue operations. Let's save who we can. The human ships moved through the system, searching for any remaining Zephyrian survivors. Dr. Maria Santos worked alongside the rescued aliens aboard the Death's Resolve, trying to treat injuries that went far beyond the physical. The crystalline beings communicated through harmonic frequencies, and many of them had been damaged by the Krex sonic weapons. Their entire way of life is based on sound and harmony, Dr. Santos explained to Captain Brooks. The Krex didn't just torture their bodies, they attacked their very souls. The rescued Zephyrian leader was a being called Elder Harmony, whose crystal body had been cracked by Krex weapons, but whose spirit remained unbroken. Dr. Lisa Campbell worked to establish communication, using the translation equipment they had developed. When Elder Harmony finally spoke, her words were filled with emotions that no human language could properly express. We are alive because you came. The Death Singers from the violent world answered our plea. We're called humans, Dr. Campbell said gently, and we're sorry we didn't arrive sooner. You saved what could be saved. We understand now why. The galaxy fears your kind. You fight with a fury that comes from your terrible homeworld, but you use that fury to protect the innocent. Captain Brooks joined the conversation. How many of your people survived? Elder Harmony's tones became sadder. Of 12 billion crystal singers, fewer than 50,000 remain. Our worlds are gone. Our cities are silent. Our children will never hear the songs of their ancestors. The bridge fell silent as the full scope of the tragedy became clear. An entire civilization had been nearly wiped out, their culture and history destroyed by creatures who saw them as nothing more than resources to be consumed. But Elder Harmony continued speaking. Yet we live because the Deathworlders came when we called. We will remember this. We will sing of it in the new songs we create. Admiral Betty Stone's face appeared on the main view screen as she contacted the fleet from Earth. Her expression was serious as she surveyed the aftermath of the battle. Fleet Commander Carter, please report. Mission accomplished, Admiral. The Krex fleet has been completely eliminated. Approximately 50,000 Zephyrian survivors have been rescued. Casualties is 0 human losses, ma'am. Complete enemy annihilation. Admiral Stone nodded slowly. Alex, what you've accomplished here will send shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Word of this battle will spread, and every species will know what happens when humans are pushed too far. Captain Dan Miller's voice came from the Voidwalker. Admiral, what are your orders regarding the evidence of our weapons capabilities? All battle recordings are classified at the highest levels. The galaxy doesn't need to know exactly how. We destroyed the Krex fleet. Let them wonder. Fear of the unknown is sometimes more powerful than fear of the known. Dr. Campbell was working with the Zephyrian survivors to record their testimony about the Krex atrocities. Elder Harmony and the other Crystal Singers wanted the galaxy to know what had happened to their people. We will tell all who listen about the Mercy Killers who came from the Death World, Elder Harmony said. We will sing of how the humans brought justice when justice seemed impossible. As the human fleet prepared to depart, they left behind sensor buoys that would monitor the system and ensure no other threats appeared. The Zephyrians would be relocated to a new homeworld, far from the shipping lanes where predator species might find them. Admiral Stone delivered a final message that would be broadcast throughout the galaxy. Captain Jake Morrison recorded her words from the bridge of the horizon's edge as she spoke to any species that might be listening. This is Admiral Betty Stone of the Human Colonial Defense Force. The Zephyrian people called upon us to bring our most deadly ships, and we answered their plea. The Krex Dominion no longer exists. Their fleet has been eliminated, and their threat to innocent life has ended. She paused, letting her words sink in across the light years. Let this serve as both salvation and warning to all who hear this message. Humanity will not tolerate genocide. We will not ignore the cries of the innocent. We are the children of a world that tried to kill us every day, and we learn to be stronger than death itself. We do not seek war, but when war comes to the defenseless, we will answer with everything we have. The transmission ended, and the human fleet engaged their hyperspace drives. They disappeared into the darkness between stars, leaving behind a solar system that would become a monument to both salvation and terror. Elder Harmony and her surviving people began the long process of rebuilding their civilization. They would create new songs about the Deathworlders who came when called, warriors from a violent world who used their deadly skills to protect the innocent. In her final report, Admiral Stone wrote words that would be classified for 100 years. The galaxy now knows that humanity's reputation as Deathworlders is not just about our ability to survive. It's about our willingness to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. May we never need to demonstrate this truth again. But deep in the classified archives, plans were already being made for the next time the galaxy's innocent would need the children of Earth to answer their desperate plea.